Hello and welcome to this lecture, and from this lecture onwards, in this section we will be learning entirely about Firebase. So let's first go ahead and understand what Firebase actually is. Before understanding Firebase, what you need to do is that you need to understand the concept of a server. So if you have a look at this thing right here, this is your mobile device, and as you could see, this thing right here is a database server. So if you already know about online applications, like some online application which is going to save data on the database server, so this is how this thing actually works. So your user device is actually going to send a request to the database server requesting for some information, and the database server is going to respond to your device by sending back the data, and you are able to see that data on your device. So this is how the database server configuration actually works. So you have a device, you have data stored on the database, you request for data, you get the data, and in some cases you also post some kind of data from your device to the database server. For example, when you request for some new page on your Facebook app, so let's say you are requesting for a page of a certain celebrity via your Facebook app, what is going to happen is that the request is sent to the database, and the database is going to respond you back with the data on that particular web page. So there are a few problems, or you could say issues, with database servers, and these are the issues which I have listed down over here. The first thing is that it's extremely hard to program and configure. So if you talk about database servers, the thing about database servers is that they are extremely difficult for a newbie programmer to be able to code and configure. So what you need to do is that first need to configure the server, you need to set up the tables and do everything like that, and that thing involves quite a bit of complexity which might make the task overwhelming. Need to build authentication logic from scratch. Now when you are building some kind of online applications wherein the data is going to be stored on the database, you do need to have some method for authentication. For example, when you basically open up the Facebook app or any other app, and when you request for data, you do need to make sure that the user actually has the proper authentication to access that particular information. For example, when you log in with your ID or credentials, you could only access your personal data stored on Facebook. You cannot go ahead and access anybody else's personal data stored on any website for that matter. So for that purpose, you do need to have authentication, and it's extremely complex to build authentication logic from scratch. The next biggest disadvantage of database server is that it provides no real-time updates. So for example, let's say if you have a website or if you have an application connected to a backend server, so when the data in the backend gets updated, the updates are not reflected real time onto your application or a website. What you need to do is that you need to constantly keep refreshing your application or your website so as to know that if you got a new update in the database or not. So that is another big disadvantage of the traditional database servers, and Firebase actually addresses all these concerns in an extremely good manner. So let's go ahead and learn how Firebase actually works. So this thing right here is Firebase, and unlike database, Firebase is actually called as database as a service. So instead of a database as a database which stores data, it's actually used as a service. So what the service actually does is that, let's say you have two mobile devices connected to Firebase, and let's say this is your Firebase database. So the first advantage of this thing is that you need a minimum backend programming. You get real-time updates for your application. You get a built-in authentication, so you don't need to actually build the authentication logic from scratch. Instead, Firebase actually provides you with that. Not only that, but Google, Facebook direct authentication is also available on Firebase. So for example, if you develop applications with Firebase, Google and Facebook authentication is directly inbuilt into Firebase. So whenever you want to confirm identity of a user, you just need to add some lines of code to your app, and the user will be able to use your app using his Facebook or Google login credentials. So not only that, there are a lot of advantages of using Firebase, and we will be discussing those advantages as we move along in this section. So in the next lecture, what we will do is that we will go ahead and learn how to set up Firebase in your Android application. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.